Hello, this video is going to teach you how to do matrix multiplication. We're going to do two types of multiplication. We're going to first show you how to multiply a matrix by a scalar, and then we're going to show you how to multiply two matrices together. So scalar multiplication, that just means we're going to take a matrix, let's say we take the A matrix, and we're going to multiply it by a constant, let's say -3. So -3 times A. Well, what's going to happen is we're going to have a -3 out in front of that A matrix. So we're going to have 1, -3, -2, and 0 out in front. And basically, I just think of this as distribution method. So just distribute that -3 to every single element inside that matrix. And so all you have to do is we've got -3 times 1, -3 times -3. I'm going to make these -3's green here, just so you can see a little bit better. So -3 times 1, -3 times the -3, -3 times -2, -3 times 0. And that should be very simple and very easy for you guys to do, just the multiplication. -3 times 1 is -3. -3 times -3 is +9. -3 times -2 is +6. Anything times 0 gives me 0. And there is scalar multiplication at its finest. So that's it. We just distribute it. Okay? So now let's look at the next type of matrix multiplication. So I'm going to get these, throw these out of here, get these out of our way. And so what I'm going to do is, let's say I want to do A times B. So matrix A times matrix B. Now, one thing when I'm multiplying two matrices together, I need to see if I can, because we can't always multiply every matrix to each other. So what I need to do is see the size of each matrix. The A matrix is a 2 by 2 matrix. Remember, we count by rows and columns. And the B matrix, there's 2 rows, but there's 3 columns, so it's a 2 by 3 matrix. Now I'm going to change this out a little bit. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. I'm going to say this is a 2 by 2 matrix. And then this B matrix is a 2 by 3 matrix. Okay? Now, the way that we can see if we can multiply these matrices together, so if I had A times B, I would compare their inside numbers. So notice the inside numbers are the same. If that's the case, that means we can multiply them together. If they're different, we can't. Now the resulting matrix, the matrix that we will get when we multiply these two together, will be the numbers on the outside. So we will get a 2 by 3 matrix when we multiply it together. So our answer should have a 2 by 3 matrix in it. Okay? Now, so those are very good things to note before we even start the process. So now we're ready to start. So we have A times B. So I'm going to go ahead and write this out. We have our first matrix is 1, -3, -2, and 0 times 1, 4, -1, 0, 2, 5. Okay? Now, what I think of is the first matrix when we're multiplying it is I multiply down the first row, and then for the second matrix I multiply down the first column. So when I look at it, it's going to be 1 times 0 plus -3 times 0, and that's going to give me my first element of my resulting matrix. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up, and remember we're going to have a 2 by 3 matrix, I'm sorry. So we should have 2 rows and 3 columns. So I'm going to set up my first element. Again, follow the rows and columns. 1 times 1 gives me 1. Plus 3 times 0. So I slid to the right and slid down. First you go to the right and then down. So 1 times 1 plus -3 times 0, well, that's 0. There's my first element of my resulting matrix. Now I'm ready for the second element. So when I do that, I'm going to stay with this row, but I'm going to move down to each column. So now I'm going to be ready for this second column. So now I'm going to go through 1 times 4 will give me 4, plus negative 3 times 2, which is a negative 6. So I'm going to subtract 6. Okay, so then now I'm going to go on to the next column. So now I'm at the last column here. So 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And then, so I slide up to the right and down. Negative 3 times 5 is that is a negative 15. And so there I've completed my first row. Now that I've done every single column of my second matrix, now I can move to the second row of my first matrix. So now I'm going to go over to the right, and then I'm going to repeat the columns again. So negative 2 times 1 plus 0 times 0 is 0. Go to the next one. I'm going to set these parentheses up just to do a little bit faster. So now I'm ready for my second row. So I'm going to be multiplying in my second row over here. Negative 2 times 4 plus 0 times 2. This is a 0, so my second term is always going to be 0. So negative 2 plus times 4 is negative 8. And then now I'm ready for the next one. Negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. And then 0 times 5 is 0. And now all I do is add the terms up inside the parentheses. So I get a 1, negative 2, negative 16, negative 2, negative 8, positive 2. And there is matrix multiplication.